Is there a verb you can think of that? Thank you so much for Deadpooling on over here to
So
the Awesome Patrons.
It sounds like really cringy Deadpool fans. It's flopping.
Flopping.
Well, I can think of many inappropriate things.
Yeah. You can put like an actual, just a penis on the screen.
Somebody helicoptering. You think that'd be appropriate?
That'd be great.
YouTube would like that?
Yeah, YouTube. They'd be more than happy.
Wow.
All right. You can put that in the video.
The person helicoptering? Hey, you gave me the thumbs up.
Hey guys, thank you so much for flopping on over here to the Awesome Padrone Show. We just saw Deadpool and Wolverine. And if you notice, which we're been pretty inconsistent, so if you forgot, it's understandable. Yeah. But we're on opposite sides today, and that is because we bought these shirts, and I felt like it would make more sense if he wore the Deadpool and I wore the Wolverine.
Yeah,
so.
And also I wasn't really thinking about how it would look when we're sitting down when we ordered them.
Yeah, so we make sure that they're actually kind of pointing at each other properly.
Yeah, because it would have been really awkward. You just staring at us, and we were on complete opposite sides, and it just wouldn't work out.
Yeah,
so people's OCDs would be going crazy.
Yeah,
including mine.
Yeah. But that's why we're sitting on opposite sides today. But yeah, we just saw Deadpool and Wolverine coming into Marvel recently. Marvel's been pretty bad recently.
Yeah, they've definitely been through a trend of bad movies, like Thor: Love and Thunder, Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, She-Hulk. They've had some really big duds in the past, just the past couple of years, year or two.
Yeah, exactly. And I think I've said in the past on some videos is that there was a time when people would say certain things about Marvel, and it was a time whenever I felt Marvel was actually pretty good. And it's almost like Marvel heard those complaints and is like, oh yeah, we're going to make sure to do that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. We're going to prove you right.
Yeah, we're going to prove you right. We're going to actually make a bunch of movies that actually do just feel like theme park rides, that are actually thoughtless movies, and that was really frustrating because it started becoming true. And I'm like, okay, I really can't defend Marvel anymore. So
yeah, I defended them as much as I could. But got to a certain point where it's like, okay, you've tested me enough. Yeah, I can't do this anymore.
Yeah, and so coming to this movie, I was very skeptical. I did read reviews, and reviews are pretty good, but I was still skeptical because overall, a lot of people will just give Marvel passes because it's Marvel. And
especially with Deadpool.
yeah, especially with Deadpool, and also the fact that it's rated R, so people may just give it a pass because it's Deadpool, it's Marvel, and there's gore and cussing, so people are like, oh, it's great, So I was very skeptical, but I wanted to watch it because the trailers looked good, reviews were good, I wanted to go see it, and I'm happy to say that I actually really loved this movie. It was very enjoyable, very good. The main thing I want to bring up is this was probably the funniest Deadpool movie out of the three of them.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, this movie had me laughing so hard. There was moments where I want to watch it again because I'm pretty sure I missed multiple jokes.
Right. Yeah, there's a lot of jokes per minute, honestly. There's a lot of off-screen jokes, too, that I love, too.
Yeah. There was one, and I don't want to say it, but there's one joke in particular that had me and you laughing for a good chunk of time.
It was after Deadpool suit up towards the beginning of the movie. That's all I'll say.
Yeah, it's after the Deadpool suit, right after the Deadpool suit up. It was just a joke that was kind of thrown out there and it caught me off guard, and I was laughing for a good couple of minutes.
Yeah, definitely by far the biggest joke that made me laugh. Yeah, and it wasn't even like a fourth wall break or anything about Marvel.
Yeah, it was just like a thrown out there joke that probably was my favorite joke in the whole movie. But overall, the movie is absolutely hilarious, and I think when you're going into Deadpool, that's probably one of the main things you're looking for is a movie that is just completely hilarious all the way through. But I will say that a good thing about this movie is I think what I really like is that they really do well with the characters. Obviously, you're going to see this movie, so you know Wolverine's in it. All right, so I don't know if there's any spoilers. He's in the title.
He's in the poster. Yeah, and he's in the name of the movie.
Yeah, even if you didn't watch trailers, it's already spoiled for you. Sorry, but I don't want to go into details about him right now. But I will say his character in this movie is really good. He's a very sad character. but written really well.
And this isn't really a spoiler because it was in the trailer, the first trailer, I think. And but if you haven't watched any of the trailers and you just want to go in without knowing really anything of the movie, you can skip this. But what I really loved is the fact that way beforehand, when this movie was first announced, they said that they weren't going to touch the timeline of Logan because Logan, the movie from 2017, was such a perfect ending for Hugh Jackman's Wolverine. And so they didn't want to touch that.
Logan takes place in 2029, totally separate thing. Logan died in Logan, not touching that.
So it's pretty cool they came up with the idea that this Wolverine's from a different universe.
Yeah.
A universe where he failed everybody.
Yeah.
So he's a pretty miserable Wolverine. So it's a pretty interesting way for them to bring it up and have Hugh Jackman back, but not be the main Wolverine that we've known. And one thing I do want to mention is the fact that Ryan Reynolds as Deadpool, I mean, obviously everybody knows he's like funny and hilarious. Yeah. But what I really do love about all three of these movies so far is that they don't completely ignore the drama side to his character. I mean, obviously the comedy side is the biggest point. Yeah. But they also have this dramatic side of him caring about the people that are closest to him. Yeah. And Ryan Reynolds does a really good job of selling that. He does a good job with comedy, and he does a good job of showing the more vulnerable sides to Wade Wilson.
And I'll also say that this movie probably has some of my favorite fight choreography out of probably all three of the movies. The fighting and the action is really fun. Honestly, I feel like, and I could be wrong, I could be missing something, but I feel like it's probably the goriest of the three.
Yeah. It definitely seemed like it. Disney definitely didn't limit them to what they could do with the R-rated movie. Yeah, which is exciting to see.
Yeah, and it's R-rated, so like I guess I shouldn't be surprised that there was all this. But at the same time, it is Disney technically. Oh, it is Disney. It's not even just technically Disney. It is Disney. Right. So like I was like, I wonder if they're going to pull some punches with the violence and the gore, but they really didn't. Because like I said, I really do think it was the goriest out of all three of them, and it was like I said, the action was so fun. I loved it. Now, although I really did love this movie and I enjoyed it completely, there were some obvious things that I felt like could have had some work. I don't think these really contributed to my enjoyment. It just has to do with just the writing of it. Could have had better writing. The main thing is I do think the plot of this movie was a little weak. I do, like I said earlier, the character writing is really good in this movie. But the story that these characters are in, it's a little lacking overall. Yeah,
the comedy kind of drives this movie. Yeah. Whereas the story just isn't really the main focus.
Yeah, exactly. Really. Yeah, exactly. And like I said, that's definitely not... It doesn't really take a whole lot away from this movie. I just, it's something true that we could bring
especially
up.
if I view this movie as a comedy.
Yeah, exactly.
It kind of helps me. It's one of those things where the comedy and just the movie itself is so enjoyable that's kind of... I don't even really want to focus on the bad stuff with the story.
Yeah, especially because if you're watching it, you're like, who cares? Like,
yeah, exactly. Yeah,
yeah,
it's like the comedy honestly might age not that well 5, 10, 15 years from now. Yeah. But right now, in the current climate of movies, it hit all the right spots that I wanted.
It's great, but like coming strictly from just this is a review standpoint. Yeah, it's. The storyline, the plot line could have been a little better, a little more interesting. Like you said, everything really does come from the comedy and the writing on the characters.
And one of my biggest negatives also is that, and I won't get into too much spoilers obviously right now, but just the end, I feel like was a little bit too safe. It's kind of hard for me to kind of explain without going to spoilers, but I just feel like they could have had a little more stakes at the end. It just ended a little too easily.
So now we're going to go ahead and get into our spoiler section. So if you haven't seen this movie and you do care about not getting any spoilers, I would go ahead and skip over to this time right here so you can get to our grades. But I do want to talk about these jokes. Honestly, the first joke I do want to talk about is what we're bringing up earlier, just so y'all know specifically which joke we were talking about. It's the joke whenever like Deadpool's getting like suited up and he gets like that guy starts like keeps grabbing his crotch and
they keep having cuts of him like slapping his butt
and like touching him all that stuff, and that alone was funny. Like so when he walks out, he was like FY, your Taylor's a predator. And I was like, that joke was just like you said. There was nothing about Marvel, no fourth wall breaking. It was nothing like that. It was just a quick joke, and as a joke I wasn't expecting. I thought obviously just thinking the joke was just going to come from the one scene of him getting like spanked and grabbed. Just
making a joke of like those really dramatic like suit up scenes from superhero movies. I thought they're just making a joke of that, but they actually addressed it.
It was just something about it that was just thrown out so perfectly. It was probably my favorite joke of the whole movie, to be completely honest, and just the way it was delivered. But I think one of the thing I absolutely loved about this movie, I'm really kind of excited about, and I'm hoping it means something. Who knows, right? Is they had a lot of jabs at Marvel, because like we were saying earlier, Marvel recently hasn't been the best. It hasn't been all that great.
My name is Darren. I am not a dick.
This movie right here, I think what I'm hoping, because there was so many jabs about talking, like there was a joke whenever he's like, oh, Wolverine, he's like, welcome to the MCU. Unfortunately, you're in a low point or something like that.
Yeah, you're coming in at a low point.
Yeah. And then they had another joke later on. They had a couple of other jokes about how the MCU hasn't been all that great. I do love that they addressed it. It's almost like Marvel saying like, and I'm hoping it's something like Marvel saying like, hey y'all, we know we haven't been doing all that good, but we're gonna do better, hopefully.
Yeah, fingers crossed.
Yeah, obviously, if you're gonna bring up how bad you've been, you better follow it up with some good stuff later.
Right.
And it seems like they're on the right track. You're telling me earlier, I mean, I didn't even think about it. You're telling me earlier this is going to be the only Marvel movie coming out this year.
Yeah, they definitely seem to be making a point of slowing down.
Yeah.
Going back to quality over quantity. Because I think even the old Disney CEO is one who is mainly forcing them to pump out all these movies and TV shows, but then they changed back to the CEO that was head of Disney whenever they were in their heyday. Back in the phase 1, 2, and 3. So hopefully that means they're gonna start scaling back, and start focusing on making actual good stuff.
Yeah, exactly. And like I said, I'm hoping the fact that they brought it up in this movie multiple times, it's almost like them saying like, hey, we noticed it, and we're gonna get everything together. We're gonna get ourselves together now. Obviously, we won't know until the future on that, however the next few movies go.
Which I do want to mention, we have a really good video talking about why Captain America was able to let Mjolnir in Endgame.
Yeah, please watch.
It's a huge character arc from all the movies that Captain America was in.
Yeah. If you have the time,
talking about their writing.
Yeah, I would really recommend it. Honestly, it's probably one of my favorite videos we've done. I'm very proud of it, but it didn't get a lot of traction.
Yeah,
not as much as some of our more recent stuff in our like shorts and stuff like that.
Exactly.
I recommend it.
But yeah, the main point of why I wanted to bring that up was just that Marvel had their day where they were actually trying to make good movies. And also just really love the fact that anybody who goes into this movie and not knowing the whole story, the whole backstory of Disney and Fox and Marvel, they're going to be kind of confused with a lot of this. I mean, they do a good job of explaining just the facts of the story itself, but the deeper meaning of what's actually happening, you can't fully appreciate it unless you actually know the backstory on how, like, back in like the late 90s, Marvel had to sell off a bunch of their film rights, and so they sold a bunch of their most popular characters like Fantastic Four, X-Men, Blade, Daredevil to Fox. And then Spider-Man to Sony. And then I think like Hulk to Universal Studios and a few other different ones. So that's why the X-Men and Fantastic Four and those characters weren't in the MCU this whole time. But now Disney, back in like 2019, right? They bought Fox. Disney bought Fox. So now they can start having the X-Men in the MCU. And that's why Deadpool is able to make all these like appearances with the different like they had what's his name, Foggy.
Oh yeah.
Not Foggy.
Oh,
that's
Foggy.
That's me playing Daredevil. Happy.
Oh yeah, Happy. Yeah.
At the beginning of this movie, and they talked a lot about the Avengers and all that.
Yeah.
So it's kind of just funny knowing the backstory and seeing it in the movie and how they played with it in the movie.
And then another thing is that the fact that Channing Tatum at one point was going to play Gambit in a Gambit movie, like it was going to happen. He even started growing his hair out for it. Like there was, like it was gonna happen.
It was like such a strong rumor. It was like for sure like gonna happen eventually. It was like rumored for like years.
Yeah.
And then it just never happened.
It just never happened. And then it was just great seeing him as, because I'm pretty sure that he really wanted to play Gambit. I thought he had talked about it sometimes.
Yeah.
That he really wanted to play Gambit. So I'm glad he was able to do that, at least for this movie. I can't imagine they'll bring him back for it.
Right, yeah.
But I was very happy that he was able to play Gambit in this movie.
Yeah, as soon as they showed the card flying in, I was like, oh my god, is this going to be Channing Tatum as Gambit? And there's one joke that I kind of interpreted one way, but thinking about it, it was probably meant to be something else.
Yeah.
Is whenever Deadpool Blade said like, oh, and there's only gonna be one blade.
Yeah.
And Deadpool like looked at the camera, broke the fourth wall, and looked at the camera.
Yeah.
And at the time, I thought they were making like a joke because they keep going through directors, they keep firing their writers.
Yeah.
It keeps getting delayed by years. And so it's like it never seems like it's ever gonna happen. So whenever I first saw that joke in the movie, I thought he was making a joke about how that movie's never gonna happen, and there really was only gonna be one blade.
Yeah.
And it was gonna be Wesley Snipes from like forever.
Yeah.
But it probably was just a joke of that. There's Mahershala Ali has already been cast and gonna be Blade. But the more that movie gets delayed and they fire directors and keep going through writers, the funnier that joke is gonna be. And one thing that I'm really angry about is the fact that a week before this movie came out, just a week ago, from it was probably like 7 or 8 days ago now. But a week before the movie came out, they released a final trailer for this movie. And for some reason, they decided to show X-23, Laura from Logan, Wolverine's daughter.
Yeah.
And Daphne King playing her.
Yeah,
I don't know why. A week before the movie came out.
Wait.
Exactly. I mean, of course, there's a lot of cool stuff in the movie, so it's like not the only big cameo that was in the movie, but it was definitely one of the biggest cameos.
Yeah, exactly.
I just don't understand why they felt the need, and it's not even. Some people can be like, "Oh, just don't watch the trailers," but it's like every major movie page I follow. Was posting headlines and posting screenshots of it. And this is a week before. I can't just like stay off. I mean, some people probably can stay off social media for a week. Yeah. But you can't ask me to just stay off social media completely. But yeah, it's just really dumb.
I didn't watch the trailer, and Zach had brought it up to us that you didn't bring up the actual spoiler.
I didn't tell you what it was.
You're just telling us I was mad. And I was like, okay, hopefully I don't get it. I went like on TikTok or something like that, and like immediately I was like, I'm pretty sure that's what it was.
Yeah, this movie was already gonna make money.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
Deadpool and it's Hugh Jackman back as Wolverine. It's gonna make money.
Yeah, people have been wanting this for a long time. So nothing to worry about.
It's why I respect movies like Long Legs that came out recently, and they didn't show Nicolas Cage at all in any of the trailers or any of the posters or all that. Yeah. And it really helped to sell the movie, because when you saw it in the movie for the first time, it really hit different than if you had seen it in the trailer already.
Now, as far as when we were talking about negatives, I think one thing I do want to bring up, and this obviously, whenever I was talking about the negatives and the story and the weak plot line, this is not the only thing that I really have a trouble with. I think in general the plot line was just kind of weak, but whenever we're talking about the ending, one thing I have in mind that was kind of a little irritating that they did was, I feel like they should not have made it so, they shouldn't have made it like Vanessa's and Wade are getting back together. They didn't explicitly say it, but she grabbed his hand and was like, okay, like they're obviously getting back together, right? And so, and a couple of reasons is, number one, she had earlier talked about how she had just found a guy, you know, she was talking to a guy already, and then secondly, she left him for a reason, you know, and so he needs to show that he's changed. By that point in time, we don't see that happening. We don't see that she sees that. Right. You know, there's no nuance, or there's no gradually coming to that. Like, you get a writing. I really feel like what they should have done was just have them be on good terms by the end. Because we see that Wade just feels awkward around her at the beginning. I feel like they should have just made it as he doesn't feel awkward around here anymore. Their friends are on good terms. And then maybe like in the next movie, they get back together at some point, maybe midway or at the end of the movie, however they want to do it. But I just don't feel like they should have gotten back together at the end of this movie.
And me and Marquez were just talking about Lady Pool being in the movie, and they didn't actually like show her face, and we're kind of surprised by that, and we couldn't really tell who it was. So I looked up on IMDb, and it was Blake Lively. I was thinking it was either could be Blake Lively or Taylor Swift.
Yeah,
and it was Blake Lively. But something else I noticed while looking on the IMDb page for this movie is that Matthew McConaughey played one of the Deadpools. He played the cowboy Deadpool. I'm seeing it again tomorrow, and I'm gonna have to pay attention to see if I can recognize his voice.
Hey guys, this is Zach. So me and Marquez realized while we're editing that we left out a few things that we wanted to say. So I'm just gonna go ahead and record this section just to name a few points that we wanted to make. And also the device that we use to record audio isn't working. So right now I'm just using my iPhone to record my audio. So hopefully it doesn't sound too bad. But the first thing we wanted to bring up is that we really love the dynamic between Hugh Jackman and Ryan Reynolds. We've been wanting to see these two characters paired up in a movie for so long now. I mean, technically we got it in 2009 in X-Men Origins, but that wasn't really Deadpool. And that movie in general just wasn't the greatest. So it's good to see them back and doing it the right way. And just the way they were able to set up the two characters in this movie were just great. They're so different. And they definitely clash a lot throughout this movie, but they also have a lot of similarities in what they're going through, and they have a lot of the same goals that really work really well together. It's a really good buddy cop type of movie. Another point I want to make is that my mom actually used to drive a Honda Odyssey when I was a kid. That was like the main vehicle that she drove while I was growing up. So it was just funny when they brought up the whole Honda Odyssey joke, and that joke kind of ran throughout the entire movie. The first time they kind of brought it up, I like turned to Marquez and I was like, that's what my mom drove when I was a kid. And then the next day, whenever I brought my parents to go see the movie, she's just really excited to see it in the movie. So it's just a really cool little joke that they threw in the movie. And the last point I want to make is kind of an add-on to a point I made a little bit earlier in the video when I talked about how I felt the ending was a little bit too safe. And it's just that at the beginning of the second Deadpool movie, Vanessa died pretty surprisingly. And the whole rest of the movie was pretty much about Wade, Deadpool, trying to figure out what his purpose was in the world without Vanessa being there anymore. And yeah, the mid-credit scene of Deadpool 2 was funny and it was very Deadpool and I really enjoyed it. But I feel like the third movie could have played a lot with the consequences of that. Especially when it was announced that the TVA was going to be involved. I thought the whole plot was going to be about them going after Deadpool for all the stuff that he did in the mid-credit scene. I thought that was a really cool concept, and it really played really well because I don't think that Marvel and Fox really planned that because Disney hadn't bought Fox until 2019, and Deadpool 2 came out in 2018, and then Loki came out in 2021, and that's when the TVA was introduced into the MCU. So I really don't think they really planned that. But it would have worked out really perfectly if they would have made that the story of this movie. But they literally had a scene where Mr. Paradox straight up tells Deadpool that them coming after him had nothing to do with all the time travel he was doing. It was something completely unrelated to that. And I'm not necessarily saying that Vanessa should have stayed dead or anything by the end of the third movie. And I know Deadpool is obviously a very no rules kind of character. I just feel like they could have done a lot more just with the consequences of what he did at the end of the second movie, especially when the whole second movie was about him trying to move on, not necessarily move on, but just finding his purpose in the world without Vanessa. And like I said, yeah, the mid-credit scene was funny, but I just feel like they could have done more with this movie, adding on to that mid-credit scene. I also felt that as fun as a lot of the cameos were, I do feel like they could have had the movie be a little bit longer because it didn't let some of these cameos breathe. Like, obviously, not all the cameos, all the characters needed to be in the movie for a long time or anything, but sometimes it did feel like they just had characters pop up and then they just left just so they could have the cameo in the movie. But I'm not complaining about that too much because a lot of them were really fun to see, especially Chris Evans as Johnny Storm, the Human Torch again. I really loved him as the Human Torch. It's kind of crazy how Chris Evans is able to play Captain America and the Human Torch, considering they both have very different personalities, and he plays them both so perfectly. And especially with this being perhaps the last movie in the Fox universe, or having to do with the Fox universe at least. I mean, I'm sure Deadpool is going to pop up in some of these movies, especially now that the opening weekend is over and it's made almost $500 million in the opening weekend. But as far as the X-Men and the Fantastic Four and Blade in this Fox universe, this is kind of like the closing chapter of that section of the Marvel universe. I just feel like there could have been a little more stakes, a little more weight to the ending, but at least we got Hugh Jackman in the Wolverine costume and the full mask and everything at the end, so I'm not complaining too much. And also to go along with the point of me feeling like it could have been a little bit longer, I also feel like Cassandra Nova, there was that scene whenever she helped Deadpool and Wolverine get back to their universe through the Doctor Strange portal, and then she had a scene afterwards with Pyro, or I can't remember the character's name, but from the old X-Men movie. She had like a quick conversation with him, and then all of a sudden I know what he told her is what made her want to change plans and want to get revenge on Mr. Paradox, but I do feel like it was kind of a flip of the hat kind of thing. It just happened all of a sudden, like she helped Deadpool and Wolverine get back to their universe, which that in itself, I know it's one of those cliche things where it's like they were appealing to her nicer conscious side, but I feel like that scene was kind of rushed in itself. But then after she sent them on their way, just the whole her changing her plan, just I don't know, it just felt really like boom, 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 just to get to the end.
We are gonna say that Deadpool and Wolverine is 85% awesome. Well, guys, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Also, comment and let us know what you thought about Deadpool and Wolverine, and even rank all three if you want.
And don't forget to follow us on social media. We have Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok, all at The Austin Madrone Show.
And we have one other page, too. We have an IMDb page.
Oh, yeah. That's right. Yeah. This is the first video that we can bring that up
Yeah,
in.
we have an IMDb page now. You can look for our names, Marquez Padrone and Zachary Padrone. We're technically producers. I don't want to give us the full credit of being a producers. We just threw some money towards Shelby Oaks from Chris Stuckman. So we didn't put any actual work into the movies. We put work in because we have jobs, and that's how we have them.
Right. We funded a fraction of the movie. Probably just a pizza party that they had on set.
They probably said, thank you, Marquez and Zach, for this pizza. I just wanted to bring that up.
Oh, and also our YouTube channel name is going to be somewhere in the movie. Probably a really quick scene.
Probably real quick. Probably just like maybe just scroll
flash
through
by really fast.
So if you see that movie, you should be able. I mean, like I said, I don't know how fast it's going to pop up on there. So I don't know if it's something we're going to have to like searching for. But we should.
But it's going to be the Austin Madrone Show.
Yeah, the Austin Madrone Show.
Really fast.
Well, anyways, guys, thank you so much for watching, and you will see us later.
I went a little early.